Perplexity wants to buy TikTok. Could they actually pull it off? Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief Headlines Edition, all the daily AI news you need in around 5 minutes. We kick off today with a fun one, which is that Perplexity apparently is joining the queue of American companies that wants to buy TikTok. We are, of course, several months now into the TikTok divestment story, honestly several years at this point, but progress does seem to have stalled. President Trump delayed the process by 75 days by executive order, however, that deadline is approaching on April 5th. One of the key issues in the minefield, among many others, is the potential for monopoly risk. Basically, the big tech companies are some of the very few who could afford an acquisition of TikTok, but adding them would absolutely contribute to antitrust concerns. Given that, many of the viable deals were coming from private consortiums, which added the risk of a major US communications platform being functionally owned by foreign investors. Enter Perplexity. The company has claimed that they are singularly positioned to rebuild the TikTok algorithm without creating a monopoly, combining world-class technical capabilities with little tech independence. In a blog post that reads much more like a manifesto, Perplexity argues that control of the algorithm, not the company, is the key issue. They argued that a private consortium would functionally keep parent company ByteDance in control, while acquisition by a competitor would create a monopoly. Perplexity writes, all of society benefits when content feeds are liberated from the manipulations of foreign governments and globalist monopolists. The company continued, the TikTok algorithm today is a black box. We believe these recommendation systems should be transparent. To eliminate risks of user manipulation, we propose rebuilding TikTok's algorithm from the ground up, with transparency as the guiding principle. Our promise is to turn TikTok into the most neutral and trusted platform in the world. To achieve this, we commit not only to developing a new algorithm, but also making the TikTok For You feed open source. Perplexity then included a 7-point plan for reshaping the platform with American interests at heart. Alongside the open source proposal, they suggested upgrading the AI systems and hosting them on hardware based in the US, as well as adding citations and translation. Perplexity also suggested integrating their tech into the search function and enhancing personalization. A big sticking point of this, of course, would be purchase price. Analysts have suggested that serious bids start at $30 billion and could be as much as $50 billion. Perplexity recently made news for reportedly seeking $1 billion in funding at an $18 billion valuation. All of which is to say that this probably is more about Perplexity inserting themselves in the conversation than it is about an actual deal coming together. Perplexity have been doing lots and lots to stay in the news cycle, but this TikTok thing is something that we should have more information about how it's going to evolve over the next couple of weeks. Next up, Meta is testing a new AI feature on Instagram, suggesting AI-generated replies to users. And the context for this is that Meta has had something of a hard time creating compelling AI use cases on their own social media platforms. Some executives have suggested that social media will have millions of AI accounts interacting with regular users, but testing that theory went very poorly, with Meta facing a sharp backlash against their AI-generated accounts. The new feature, called Write with Meta AI, was spotted by ex-user Jonah Manzano. Users that have access to the feature can generate automatic replies on Instagram pictures, taking the context into consideration. Manzano demoed the feature applied to a picture of a smiling guy in his living room, with the AI suggesting 3 replies: cute living room setup, love the cozy atmosphere, and great photo shoot location. TechCrunch wrote, the new feature would likely be an unwelcome one for users who would rather keep comments AI free on Instagram, especially those who believe their friends deserve genuine comments as opposed to AI slop. Many users yearn for the days when Instagram was more authentic and there wasn't as much pressure to perform, so the addition of AI comments could be deemed inauthentic and unnecessary. Frankly, I'm not particularly sure when Instagram was authentic, and I'm also not totally sure that we need to preserve the sanctity of the Instagram comment section. I also think that this particular use case, like it or loathe it, is absolutely inevitable, and we're going to see versions of this on absolutely every single social network, so if you don't like it, I apologize, but this is probably where we're headed. I'm sure there will be artisanal, no AI allowed social networks for us in the future. Moving over to Google, that company is rolling out real-time video functionality for Gemini. Gemini can now take inputs from screens and camera feeds in real time. The feature was first previewed by Google last year as a part of Project Astra, which was envisioned as a next-generation AI assistant. The feature is now available for some premium subscribers beginning this week, with a full rollout planned for the coming weeks. Google is the second lab to integrate this type of real-time video into their AI assistant, with OpenAI releasing the feature in December. Both companies include video at their $20 price point, making this now a default modality for paid AI assistants. More broadly, this rollout seems to confirm Google's strategy, consolidating their product line into the core Gemini experience. Last week, the company integrated the Notebook LM generative podcast feature into Gemini, aka audio overviews, allowing users to seamlessly do things like explain reports generated with their version of deep research. So will it work to have Gemini be one unified experience? Time will tell, but for now, that is going to do it for today's AI Daily Brief Headlines edition. Next up, the main episode.